Welcome. This is Lunar Living, a weekly conversation of lived astrology and cyclical wisdom that expands our connection with ourselves, each other, and all of life. Wherever you are, let's take a deep breath together and arrive just as we are. We're not here to predict life, we're learning how to grow in rhythm with it.
And each week we'll explore the current astrology, the wisdom of the moon, and the energetic invitations unfolding around us, translating the language of the cosmos into practical guidance that you can actually live. And together we will help you understand not only what is happening in the sky, but why it matters, how it might be showing up in your relationships, your emotions, your body, and your everyday life.
We'll share our own experience and learn how to embody the wisdom moving through us now, because transformation doesn't happen just through information. It requires our engagement. I'm Cholena Kasa, founder of Sat Mom and Lunar Living. For decades, I've explored what it means to live in rhythm with my own body, with the moon, with nature, and with others. I weave cyclical wisdom and embodied practices with relational awareness so we can remember our wholeness and expand our capacity for meaningful connection.
And I am Elayni Prinsloo, astrologer healer and intuitive coach. And I love translating the wisdom of astrology into grounded, practical insights that help people navigate life with greater clarity, trust, and self-awareness. And together we will explore the gifts, the challenges, and the invitations held with each week's cosmic landscape, making the heavens feel personal, accessible, and deeply supportive. We're so grateful that you're here.
Welcome to Lunar Living. So now we're in the week of July 27th with the moon moving through Capricorn. We've got the full moon in Aquarius and ending the week with the moon in Pisces. Elayni, what else is in store for us, my dear friend?
So Monday, we start with a Capricorn moon square Saturn retrograde in Aries and Mercury direct in Cancer. So it's a very similar theme to what we had last week, where we started the week with a similar theme, except the moon was in a T-square with Saturn and Mercury in Libra. And Mercury was the planet that was still in retrograde. It has now gone direct. And Saturn has gone direct on Sunday the 26th. So the two planets, the roles have reversed. They're in the same sign.
Sorry, Saturn went retrograde on the 26th.
Yeah, correct.
Okay,
Yes.
just making sure.
Yes. So what's really interesting is that whatever we experienced in the week of the 20th to the 26th, we start this week, the 27th until the 2nd of August, in a very similar fashion, with a T-square between the moon, Saturn, and Mercury. But the roles have been reversed a little bit. The energy is different. So Mercury is now moving forward, Saturn is now slowing down, and the moon happens to be in Capricorn, which is more grounded, practical, reliable, structured. So some of the themes that we may experience on Monday is that we start this week with a little bit of a reality check. We may feel the weight of responsibility, while also realizing old fears or limitations that may have been holding us back. We gain clarity around these areas or these issues, if you will. So as Mercury is now stationing direct and now moving forward, our emotional sort of clarity starts to return, making it easier for us to understand what has been happening with us over the past few weeks. And so I really invite everybody to just take a moment and just take a pause quickly and just think and feel into what are some of the themes that have been happening for you over the last month. What has been a recurring theme that you've noticed within your emotional body, within your emotional responses, within how you respond to or how you may have responded to life through Cancerian themes, right? So that could have been where maybe there was a theme that came up for you, or a feeling, or an emotion, or an experience, or a memory, that was tied to the past. Maybe past memories came up, or issues around family, or things around the home, nurturing, caring, overgiving, slowing down, shutting off. So, what was the theme for you specifically? If you feel into it and if you reflect on it, what was that one thing or those two things that you noticed was a recurring theme for you? So it's always good to just take a pause and to do a little bit of reflection, because sometimes I think like life just gets so busy that we miss the things, right? We can just carry on day to day to day to day to day to day, and we never really stop to take stock of what we may have been going through so that we can actually take the wisdom from those experiences. So, what I will say for me personally is that a theme that came up for me during this Mercury retrograde, during this sort of period over the last month, is my relationship to masculine support. So that was a theme that came up for me, and how I was able to move through that, how I was able to recognize that, how I was being unfair in a way where I was expecting a fish to climb a tree, and then I would get mad at the fish for not being able to climb the tree. And so I had sort of that moment of realization around that, okay, my expectation of the support around the masculine that I'm looking for. So, like, I'm placing expectations on people that aren't necessarily part of their makeup or part of their character. So, it's a longer story, but I'm not going to get into too much detail on here. But I do just want to share, like, the revelation that I had, the insight that I had. And it was very freeing to me eventually, after I've been in the muck of it. I could see the wisdom on the other side of it, and I got to integrate that within myself, and I could go, oh, okay, that was such a big moment of clarity. So what was that moment for you?
Mm.
So, Cholena, do you have anything that you can share that you feel was perhaps something that was relevant, or a theme in your life that came up that you think like, okay, yeah, this is something that I noticed within myself?
Um, Absolutely. And also, I'm just feeling into the experience of um, same issue, different perspective. Like, am I always only in this role? Or do I actually play the opposite role sometimes too? Like, I noticed in friendships where I was feeling frustrated with one particular dynamic and noticing, oh, I may be showing up with some of that in this other dynamic. So I may be playing some of that role that's frustrating me with a different space. Um, Also, like you just said, um, clearer alignment of what I'm actually seeking from others
Mhm.
and what I'm here to fulfill for myself, and making sure what I'm actually seeking from others is aligned with that person. They've even signed up for it.
Yeah.
A lot of unconscious contracts or assumptions that we've had in the past have been kind of more dissolving into freedom to be who we each are.
Hmm.
And that feels really good, but it has felt really crunchy this past week, especially.
Yeah.
Um, but also in choosing not to dive into a new story, associate the current crunchiness with the deeper repetition of the old story,
Mhm.
gives it an opportunity to just just like when you're working your fascia, and sometimes fascia gets worked so hard that you have to kind of dissolve it, and it then can rebuild in a healthier way. There's a lot of that kind of going on in our lives, it feels like.
Yeah. Yeah.
So personally in my home space, like just a lot of and in both ways, roles that we had subscribed to each other and then held against each other for not being able to perform,
Hmm.
have just kind of breaking free. There's a lot more freedom to be as we are without explanation, or excuse or apology.
Mm. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. So yeah, so I mean, it's important for us to be able to recognize this, because it's through the recognition that we get to embody the medicine, we get to embody the gifts. And then that is how we can start to shift and grow and move forward from a healthier place, right? So this is why I invite everybody to just take a moment and pause the video, reflect on what came through for you, and then so that you can actually take the wisdom from it, right? So let's just go back into Monday. So as we were saying, we have this Capricorn T-square between the moon in Capricorn, Saturn in Aries, and Mercury in Cancer. These are all cardinal signs. It's all forward moving signs. It's signs that are predominant in our lives, right? So we may be feeling overwhelmed by responsibility on Monday. It can happen a couple of days before, it can happen a couple of days after, but that overall energy may be present with us. We may also be feeling a bit stuck, or let's say frustrated around perhaps certain setbacks or delays that we didn't expect, or that maybe we were hoping for things to turn out in a certain way and then something happens and now we're put on like a temporary pause. And that can be a frustrating situation because, we have this idea in our head, or we have to achieve a certain goal, or we have to travel to a different country, or, our flight gets delayed, or something happens that sets us back a little bit. Maybe the people that we're meant to be, having meetings with or conversations with, or a launch or a project or something, there's maybe a bit of setback. And we may also find ourselves very sort of impatient and impulsive, and we may start to respond from a place of urgency rather than a place of calm or clarity or wisdom. However, the invitation is to allow ourselves to make mature decisions. So, learning from the past so that we don't make the same impulsive decisions that we've made in the past. So, this is where this week sort of repetition comes back, where on the 20th, it was the T-square between the moon and Libra, and then Saturn, and then Mercury, and now again, a very similar theme. So have you learned the lesson that you were meant to learn within this week? Was there something in there that you needed to learn? Were you able to communicate your emotions clearer? Were you able to, dissect and sort of analyze your emotions? Were you able to gain clarity? Can you be patient? Can you be grounded? Can you slow down? Can you be, can you make decisions from a place of maturity rather than fear or insecurity or frustration? So that's kind of the invitation on Monday, the 27th.
I just want to also venture to say that with Saturn retrograde, any delays that we're experiencing, any quote unquote setbacks that go on, would be a pause to reestablish your foundations, your structure, your discipline, to make sure all the pieces, your foundation is properly built before you build the next piece. So any setback is actually a blessing here, because it means there's a little something that was either not quite right, or you're waiting for the last thing to drop in, or there's one stone that still needs to go in there. So it may feel crunchy, but it will actually, if we take it for what it is and say, okay, I'm open to whatever this piece is that I've been missing, to transmute or to drop in, then we can take advantage of that.
Yeah. So the theme for Monday, I would say, is that, our growth will come through responsibility and clarity. So that's kind of what I would suggest people to feel into on Monday. It's like, can I grow through being more responsible? And can I allow myself to really just feel what I'm feeling and actually become clear on what that is? Okay. So then on Tuesday, we have the moon in Capricorn again, and she is in a trine with Venus in Virgo and Mercury in Cancer. So these are very supportive energies. These are energies that flow easily and freely between one another. So it's a very grounding day, and it's also a very productive day. So we get to blend our practical actions, right, with that Capricorn moon, that Venus in Virgo. It's very practical. It's very earthy. It's very, we can put systems in place. We can put structures in place. We can build better routines. We can pay the bills. We can do the spreadsheets. We can do the budgets. Like, we have all of the practical clarity and aspects and structures and systems in place, and we can merge all of those qualities and all of those things with heartfelt conversations, making it a lot easier to resolve or solve problems and also strengthen our relationships. So the only drawback or setback that I would suggest people be mindful of is overthinking, becoming critical or perfectionistic, or overanalyzing. So getting so stuck in the problem that you're not able to see the solution because you're too in it. So the invitation is, if you find yourself feeling, maybe a little bit overly critical or overly analytical, you feel really stuck in the problem, you can't actually see the solution, you're overthinking too much, then just take a step back, look at that bird's eye perspective, look at, putting yourself, sort of removing yourself out of the situation so that you can get the clarity that you need in order to be able to resolve the problem. So this is where the positive aspect of this comes in, because we can actually organize a lot of our lives with intention, with really beautiful kindness and acts of service. We can have productive conversations, and small practical actions can really create lasting emotional safety with this particular planetary formation and aspects. So that is kind of what we can expect to receive on Tuesday. So if you are maybe looking for solutions or a plan, or feeling into what the themes are for you and relevant for you, but maybe sitting with that energy on Tuesday and asking yourself, okay, how can I organize and structure my life with intention? And what are some small, very easy, very stable, very practical actions that I can take that will help me to create lasting emotional security? So that is a big journal prompt that you can feel into and sit with on that day. Cholena, would you like to share something here?
Yeah, what's coming through for me also is if you find yourself unable to clearly step back from the overthinking, the over engaging in whatever the quote unquote issue is for you, the energy is present in your body. So move your body in nature, just put on some very intense music and shake it out, run around, like do something like totally nonsensical, which will help you differentiate from this overly logic and move into the non-logic, so that you can find that space in the middle. um, you have to find a way to disengage the brain, and with that energy riding so much in the body, you have to move the body. So that's really the thing that's coming through for me, is like when we can't disengage our brain from a way we are just like locked into thinking about something, and it's starting to torture us, move your body, the brain will follow.
Beautiful. Okay, so Wednesday. Wednesday, we have an Aquarius full moon. So this is kind of fun. This is a bit of an interesting full moon, really, because we have the sun in a cazimi with Jupiter in Leo. Now, we remember the last time we spoke about a cazimi, it means that the sun is the planet, of which would be Jupiter, moves into the heart of the sun. It's the exact degree to the exact minute. It's not the exact minute on the full moon. The cazimi happens a little bit before the full moon, but that energy is there. So the sun almost like disintegrates or incinerates Jupiter within the heart. So it's quite like an interesting sort of space to be in, where Jupiter can be the ego. It can be very big. It can be very boisterous. And when it's kind of comes into the heart of the sun, the ego can be a little bit dominating, and we can sort of lose sight of the bigger picture. We can lose that heart-centered consciousness. So just keeping that in mind as well. And then the opposition of that, which is the moon is conjunct Pluto in Aquarius. And so we have these two complete polarity aspects on this full moon where it's like the lord of the underworld, Pluto, the darkest planet, the planet that's the farthest away, the most mysterious, the one that, we don't know, we don't see. That same planet is conjunct the moon, which is again a very mysterious planet, going through cycles, moving up and down and all around, like the dark side of the moon and the light side of the moon, and the unconscious and the subconscious and the past lives and the past experiences and the emotions. And that is in opposition to the soul, the sun, the ego, the expansion, the heart, the truth. So there's these real like polarity essences on this particular full moon. So, and again, the constellations that it's in is the sort of like battle almost, if you will, between the individual and the collective. And so it's quite interesting how Jupiter will always amplify whatever is present, and Pluto will intensify our emotions. So because it's Jupiter and because it's Pluto, and both of these two planets hold firm with the truths that surface at that time may not and will not and cannot be ignored. So we may find that on Wednesday, now this could be individually, this could be in your community, this could be in your family, this could be in your work, this could be in any area of your life. You may find that there's a lot of power struggles between people's egos, and there can be a lot of ego clashes on this day. There can be a big range of emotions as well that we feel. We may begin to feel emotionally overwhelmed. We may also become completely desensitized, where we just kind of shut down and we don't actually feel a lot of stuff because we're more in the Aquarian aspect where it's a little bit more Spock, right? It's a little bit more logic and not necessarily emotional or compassionate or empathetic or sympathetic. So it can manifest in a unique kind of flavor for each one of us. But what is really beautiful about this day is that it will, without a shadow of a doubt, wake something up inside of each one of us. There will be some kind of personal awakening within ourselves or within our relationships, within our community, within our, relationship to ourselves, the collective, or, these kinds of themes in our lives. We will also be given an opportunity to release and step outside of outdated identities that we have taken on from society. So I've got to be the good girl, like my dad expected me, to become a lawyer, and now I've got to perform, or like all these sort of cultural, societal, external society pressures and expectations, these start to collapse. And we can release these outdated identities that we have taken on from these different places. And we can step into our authentic self-expression. We can step into our authentic leadership. We can start to transform when we choose authenticity over other people's approval. And we get to work with this energy in a way that will help us to bring these two complete polarities into balance. So the role for you to remember, or the message, I guess, like try not to pendulum too much, where it's like I'm going to be in the one extreme, where I'm going to be stuck in the emotions, the manipulation, the cruelty, the dominance, the ego, I'm going to just punish everybody, or I'm going to swing to the complete other side where it's like my ego is in the way and I'm stuck and I'm, fighting, but I don't know what I'm fighting for. And so the gift in this, or the invitation in this, is to seek the light aspect and to seek that balance. So like swinging in the middle, where you've got 1 foot in your soul, 1 foot in your heart, 1 foot in your unique individual creative expression, 1 foot in your leadership, and then 1 foot in the shadow, right? Which is like, okay, I want to empower my community. I want to transform collective wounds and shadows. I want to release control over the masses. So I can be in both and I can release these identities that I've taken on from people, places, things, etc., so that I can step into more of who I really am and not be afraid to be that version of myself, because I don't have to be afraid that I'm going to be too big or too shiny or too out there or too weird, because with the Sun and Jupiter conjunct, that fear dissipates. So it's a really cool invitation and a really beautiful full moon to work with if we want to step into more personal awakening with that. So yeah. Cholena, what would you like to share on that?
The thing that's really hitting hard for Wednesday for me is you talk about releasing old identities, ego death. That is ego death. I mean, but if we approach it as I am looking to release these old identities, then we are working with this process. If we are hiding our true identity, or there are things that we're operating that we're not showing the world, this is where we're going to get called out. This is going to be huge publicly because there's, a lot that's still hiding beneath the surface that's been coming through. So there could be shock factor for sure. Pluto's involved, Jupiter's involved, Sun and Moon. So what Elayni said about not trying to sway too hard on this, really just ground everything that comes through. If we are seeking to purge anything inauthentic left in our systems, then we're in the right energy for this. If we're seeking to hold that and hide things still, then it's going to find us. It's just going to find us and it's going to rip it out of our hands. So, in order to not experience the harshness of that process, we can know it's coming on and we can say, okay, I may notice some identities of mine that I've been holding that maybe I've been clinging to because that validated me. Or maybe it's a destructive perspective of myself that I've been clinging to that's been hurting me. All of these can go. Things that are where our ego's overblown and we're doing things for clout or for popularity or because we should, rather than it's really in alignment and it really feels like my soul wants to do that. So, Jupiter burning up in the middle of the sun. We have to prepare for ego death on that day. And we have to prepare for other people's egos to go crashing down with truths being spilled. So if we're prepared for that, like my nervous system is already feeling that just when speaking about it. So if we're prepared for that, we can keep grounded and notice we want to stay in the middle of that pendulum. There's going to be some sway, but gentle waters might help. Or if you're feeling really rushing, go to the river. If you just need, notice which waters you might need. A shower or a bath might also, if you don't have access to water in nature, use the water in your house. You can just use intentional water in your hands. Cold water in your hands and on your wrists and face can really help bring your nervous system back into some clarity as well. So that's what's coming through for Wednesday for me.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. And yes, it's a really good idea to work with water on that day because, we've got fire and air, which is a lot of electricity. And so we could use something that is more earthy and more watery to bring in that element of softness and nurturing and just kind of slowing down a little bit. And so, yeah, no, that's really good advice. Okay, so on Thursday we've got Aquarius moon, right? Trine Mars and Gemini. So this is a cool day, lots of energy, lots of ideas coming through, really good energy to learn and network and take inspired action and talk about stuff. And so like we can have a lot of
like the action of curiosity with Mars and Gemini following that full moon where everything might be feeling so much, the curiosity that lends us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so it's like there's a lot of air energy there because it's again moon and air and Mars and air, and so there's a lot of quick. It's very quick. So yes, it can be scattered energy. We can definitely talk a lot. We can definitely talk more than what we do. We can have, we can be up in our mental body. We can overanalyze. We can get distracted. We can be scattered all over the place. We can try and do 20 different things at once, but nothing really lands. So the invitation is to notice when you get up in your head too much, perhaps a little bit, right? So use that energy to learn and be curious and network and talk and, do all these different things. But if you're on the other end of it, if you're in the very overwhelmed, very scattered, just stuck in your head, getting headaches because, you like the tension, it's here, it's here, it's here, then just try to slow it down, try to ground a little bit, do some breathing, kind of like just help to regulate yourself so that the creative ideas can come through, so that the creative problem solving can, emerge, so that we can be courageous to try something new, so that we can be and feel confident in taking action on these inspired ideas, right? Because we can have so many beautiful ideas and so many cool things happening for us, but it only really matters if you actually follow it up by action. So by literally putting systems into place, by taking the action steps to make these inspired ideas, these technologies that you're downloading, if you will, so by bringing them into the body, by bringing them into the material world and not waiting on it, not sitting on it, not being like too much in the earth where it's like just like so grounded, so slow that you're procrastinating and waiting weeks before you take action. So it's more a case of leaning into that air energy, taking the ideas. If you feel too scattered or too overwhelmed or too in your head, like ground a little bit, go for a walk, have a breath or two, regulate your nervous system, just calm down a little bit, and then start to think about, okay, what are some of the creative methods and technologies and things that I can put in place that's going to help me resolve these things or change these things or create these things. I can, where do I need to cultivate more courage within myself to be able to try new things? I can have these beautiful conversations that might be very enlightening. And if I want to take action on any of these ideas, then I'm going to give myself like a plan where I can follow through with that energy and I can put like a 2-week system in place rather than a 2-month system, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's me for
Yeah, I just want
Thursday.
to personally know on Thursday, we enter the waning moon phase. So we're theme of a release starts to happen here. Wednesday, full illumination, both with the sun, with the moon in full moon in Aquarius and with the sun in the Jupiter experience. So just noting, we Thursday we enter the waning moon. So what's up for release? What was illuminated on Wednesday that's inside of us that is dissolving or releasing, and how can we just aid that process? How can we allow the deaths of the ego pieces that want to transmute into something more productive? So I think the waning moon, which really kicks off Thursday with this trine, is going to give us some clearer understanding of what's just simply leaving now.
Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, so Friday. Friday, the moon moves into Pisces and she then squares Uranus in Gemini. So on Friday, we can kind of expect the unexpected. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. It's, hidden enemies, the subconscious, the unconscious, the hidden, the stuff that we don't always see. It's the murky waters. It's like, the mysteries. It's the veil. It's like the universe. It's like dark matter. It's like spirituality. It's like all the things that we are perhaps unfamiliar with, unconscious to. There's like, magician energy. And Uranus is, like we know, very volatile, very unexpected, very erratic, very aggressive, very sudden, very explosive. So again, like it could just be, and Pisces, a moon in Pisces is emotional again, right? So We may ride the wave that day with our emotions. We may have unexpected sudden outbursts, sudden tears, sudden, flows and influxes of emotional stuff might come through. We may be we may all of a sudden, where we may have been very rigid or very stuck in a certain behavior or opinion or belief or whatever it may be, we may all of a sudden become super flexible around this, or we may just completely surrender over to whatever is happening. We may give up, we may put down the sword, if you will, and stop fighting and stop defending and stop protecting against, anything that the ego, for example, may have been holding on to. And so we get to surrender and we get to release this day. Again, it may feel emotionally unsettling because, again, it is very sort of, it's like showing, like the image that's coming to my head. It's like seeing an electrical wire hit a puddle of water, and like it's that, somebody accidentally steps in it and it's like this, like you may get a little bit electrocuted because you can't see what's there unless you walk through the water, right? You don't know that the electricity is there. And so there could be some unexpected things that happen. So yeah, we may be more overwhelmed. We may feel emotionally overwhelmed. We may be very emotionally reactive. We may have a lot of unexpected anger come up out of the blue, tears, sadness, grief. We may act very impulsively or react very impulsively. We may feel I want to just like, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. It's like I'm seeing the image that I've got in my head. It's like we're walking along and something unexpected out of the blue happens, and you're kind of sitting in the aftershock of that. So something like that kind of energy may appear. But the good expression, the positive expression of this is that we can have a tremendous amount of breakthroughs that are very supportive. So again, if we're coming out of that full moon energy, we've had an ego death, we've dealt with that energy on Thursday where it's like, oh wow, okay, I can analyze it and I can look at it and I can, and I'm in this air and my action side of me wants to move and the moon, and so I can be cold or emotionless, whatever it may be. Friday, there's like a disruptive kind of energy, but we get to have these breakthroughs, right? We get to have these moments of surrender. And our intuition can guide us. Our intuition can lead the way. We can welcome in change instead of resisting it. We're more open. So the message here that I would say is that, whatever disrupts you on that day is also there to liberate you. So it's both and. So yeah,
Absolutely.
Cholena, what would you like to share?
Yeah, that was what was dropping in for me because Pisces superpower is also sensitivity and intuition, which can also feel like the worst thing for them if you're not totally aligned and it's flowing freely, can feel like not a gift. But at the same time, and Uranus is in its nature benevolent. All the disruption it does is for our good, not to destroy us. So there could be beautiful awakenings, breakthroughs, downloads that come in unexpectedly today, in addition to different shocking things. So it could be just knowingness that you suddenly receive, or it could be, things suddenly changing externally. So just, I think with that also receiving what she said about the fact that this is benevolent, it's working in our favor. And pay attention to your nervous system. Long, deep breaths, keep grounding and bringing ourselves down from that electrical component of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you.
And then on Saturday, the moon will trine Mercury in Cancer. So the moon is still in Pisces, and now it's going to make a trine to Cancer. So Saturday is a really good day for gentle, intuitive, heartfelt conversations, healing, and also creativity. And so, this is a good day to bring healing, to bring compassion, and to trust. But The low road is escaping reality, trying to, look for external resources like numbing out, whether this is through substance or avoidance or whatever ways we disassociate from life. Because it's in water, it could include, more harmful patterns and habits like alcohol or recreational drugs or food or, just generally kind of like shitty habits that we may have, drugs, whatever it is, social media. Um, it could just it could manifest as a way where we actually do more harm than good. So when we try and escape reality, we may be prone to leading or to going into those areas, but we can also try and escape reality by just sticking our head in the sand and just avoiding everything and pretending that we're an ostrich. Like, just looking at life through like these little um, claps, like the world is on fire, but I'm like, no, 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 it's not. No, no, it's not. No, no. So the disassociation, the avoiding, these kinds of things may come up. We can be extremely so sensitive. So just check yourself on that day. Just check yourself. Check yourself, check your habits, check your patterns. See where you are avoiding things, where you may be oversensitive, these kinds of things. But again, like I said, the invitation is for beautiful healing to be able to take place on that day. There's such compassionate communication. There's such a deep intuition. The heart can be given a voice. We can speak from the heart. We can bring in that softness, that nurturing, that beautiful love, compassion, empathy, grace. So it can be an incredibly beautiful and healing and nurturing day if we work with the energies in a positive way. So yes.
Yeah, what's coming through for me is try to stay present and gentle and soft. Healing isn't necessarily some great event. It's just staying present with what is and not abandoning yourself by running away again or disassociating again. Just staying present for it and trying to soften and be compassionate with yourself can be the most healing thing you can do. And disassociation, especially on a day like this, your body may feel the abandonment from that. So it may seem like a kind of benign thing that we inadvertently do, disassociation, and we can do it by working too hard, being overly entertained by TV, needing a theme park for life, when we can just be present to the simple whatever's here and trying to make whatever is present as beautiful as possible. As simple as that.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, and then Sunday, we end the week with a T-square between the moon, Mars in Gemini, and Venus in Virgo. So very similar to how we ended the week last week on Saturday, when the moon in Scorpio was in a T-square with Mars in Gemini and Venus in Virgo. So again, we get this sense of completion. Whatever started at the beginning of the week with that T-square between the moon, Saturn, and Mercury, again, it's an invitation to reflect, right? And there's something new that's beginning. We get to close out that cycle. So what are we missing? What do we need to see? And then we end the week in that same kind of energetic system or that same energetic pattern, except that the moon is sitting at 29 degrees of Pisces, and then it's square Mars in Gemini and Venus in Virgo. And so this T-square may create tension between the heart and the mind, right? So asking for integration rather than reaction. So we may experience a bunch of stuff that needs to be completed. So noticing what are the themes that I experienced last weekend, what came up for me, what were something that was sitting in my field, what were the emotional experiences that I was having, and where am I seeing similar things so that I can close that out and I can complete that loop or that cycle or that particular experience. So the lower expression of how this can manifest, again, it's just feeling very confused, not knowing where you want to go, being overly judgmental, critical, harsh words, being overly sensitive, feeling conflicted between your thoughts and your feelings and your relationships, feeling pulled in multiple directions, not knowing where to ground, where to go, what you want to do. Um, Feeling like you may just be tethering or just kind of bobbing, like bloop, 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 in the ocean without like an anchor or without a tether or without a lifeline. However, the high road of this, like the good expression of this, is that we can actually integrate all of this intuition, all of these insights, all of these emotional gifts and insights and intuition and compassion and sympathy and empathy and all of these good kinds of things. We can then actually integrate that with practical wisdom and practical application and taking action in a way where we can choose, compassion over criticism, and we can close an emotional chapter that may have been active for us for a while. It doesn't just have to necessarily be in a week, but it can be within this last, 2 week cycle, or it can be a much longer emotional chapter that we have been sort of experiencing for a while. And we now actually get the insights, we get the downloads, we get the clarity, the fog lifts. We're no longer, bobbing around the water or the ocean. We actually we ground, we root, we're like, oh, that's the thing, because Venus is in Virgo, right? She's grounded, she's earthy. Mars in Gemini, it's like, oh, the insights come through. Like, oh, I know where I need to go now. I know what actions I need to take. I have clarity. The moon in Pisces gives you that sense of intuition, that sense of understanding, that sort of higher spiritual perspective. Like, oh yes, okay, I don't have to carry that in my body anymore. I don't have to carry that in my nervous system anymore. I don't have to live this old wounded story anymore. I don't have to fight against my thoughts or my feelings. I get to integrate them. I get to surrender, and I actually can release what no longer serves me, so that I can step into a new chapter with clarity. So yeah, that's Sunday.
Hmm. At first I'm like, oh, yay, another square. But I'm feeling like this is really benevolent and useful for us, because in this week where we have this big ego death, it's finite. It caps it. Like we've got this really like squarely encapsulated space to go through this process this week. And then we'll be able to kind of move on from it without feeling like we're going to continue experiencing ego death after ego death. We can tend it and notice what actually needs to die. If we do that, then we can totally encapsulate this process, and kind of there's a gem that gets created from it all. And then we're still in the waning moon, and all this extra energy and all the ego stuff can continue to have its time to release as we go through the waning moon over the next week. So we don't have to rush and purge it all. We can allow it to gently release in our systems, because what's the word I'm looking for? The alchemy, the receiving of it all happens in the body, and then our brain gets the clarity and benefit from it.
Well,
So
it happens in all areas of us this week, because everything, we have a lot of those energies where it's the mind, it's the heart, it's the body. So it's like it works on, it's the spirit with Pisces. So we actually get to work with all levels and layers of consciousness. We get to work with the physical body, the emotional body, the mental body, and the energy body at the same time. So there can be a purging that can happen through all of them.
I'm getting the gem is coming into more full personal coherence.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I just wanted to say. Like, if I had to sum up this week, it would be that we're moving from discipline and reflection to awakening and healing and emotional completion, where we are asked to take responsibility again for our lives, ourselves, our emotions, our thoughts, our actions, our feelings, all of these things. And then we're encouraged to surrender these old identities and old beliefs and old stories and old wounds and old narratives so that we can actually move forward with more wisdom, compassion, authenticity in a way that we feel more grounded, structured, and disciplined and held by not just Saturn in retrograde that can give us that, restructuring of the self, but it can also then with the moon moving and activating all of these different planets, both personal and, obviously outer planets that I didn't speak about today, but I was predominantly speaking about all of our inner planets. So Mars and Venus and the moon and, the sun and all of these kinds of planets were being hit. And so it's an inward journey. And then with Jupiter and Saturn, which are more of our social planets, and Pluto, which is more of that generational planet. So we get to go on an inward journey this week where we get to restructure our inner world. Again, our thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and we can put structure and places and systems and methods, routines, all of these different things in place that will help us physically in our everyday material world, as well as emotionally, mentally, energetically, and spiritually. So it's a good week.
It is. It's amazing what the universe arranges for us.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So that's my
absolutely. Feeling
story.
very
Thank
blessed.
you. I feel
Thank
complete.
you so much. Yeah. Well, that feels very complete with that.
Good. So
Yeah.
thank you everybody for being here with us, and thank you so much for liking and subscribing and sharing and commenting and doing all of the wonderful things that you do. We are super grateful that you're here. And if you find this valuable, please do let us know in the comments below. And also, if you would like us to go into different kinds of topics or discussions or experiences, please also feel free to suggest anything that you may want to explore or have us bring into the conversation. We're open and we welcome your feedback. So thank you. Thank you for being here. We
Thank
love
you
you.
all.
Take care.
Have a
Bye.
beautiful week. See you soon.